Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's session From Detection to Recovery A Comprehensive Approach to Cyber Resilience. I'm Shilpa Goswami, and I'll be your host for the day. Before we get started, we would like to go over a few house rules. For our attendees, the session will be in listen only mode and will last for an hour, out of which last 15 minutes will be dedicated to Q&A. If you have any audio video challenges, please log out and log in again. If you have any questions during the webinar to organizers or our speakers, use the Q&A window. Our speaker for today's session, Happy Amon. She is an IT expert with over 15 years of experience in IT and cybersecurity, mainly focused on information technology administration and cybersecurity consultant. Happy Amon is a member of the International Association of Privacy Professionals and holds qualifications such as Bachelor of Information Systems, MSc Cybersecurity, Global IT Course, Certified CISO, Computer Hack Forensic, CISSP, CCSP, CISSP, CCNP root at Cisco Networking, ITIL V3 Foundation, administering Microsoft SQL Server 2012 databases, ethical hacking, CCNA security, and CCNA. She has an exceptional track record in IT administration, network administration, pen testing, policy creation, risk assessment and management, security assessment, audit, security governance, and compliance with multinational companies. Happy also strives to raise cybersecurity awareness as a cyber 221 digital ambassador, capitalizing on her proven expertise and hands-on experience in executing security government, risk assessment, compliance, conducting security audits, assessing the effectiveness of controls, data privacy, incident response, and cyber operations. Assess the governmental sector, NGOs, school, and technical communities with her experience and knowledge in the field. Without any further delay, I would hand over the session to you, Happy.
Thank you, Shilpa. And thank you to our attendees. It's unfortunate I kept them waiting for so long. It's because of the network issues, like I had indicated. And I hope if there is any issue, maybe you can't hear me clearly, kindly put it on the chat, because I know I might experience the network connection difficulties as we go. As Shilpa has already introduced me, my name is Happy Amon. I'm a cybersecurity consultant. Yes, I've got 16 years of experience, of which 6 years is in cybersecurity. And this is my third, I think, Cyber Talk with EC Council, which is a privilege which I really appreciate a lot, because the more we share in this webinars, the more we give back for free. So I'm privileged to be sharing with me again today on this webinar, where we're going to talk about detection to recovery, which is a comprehensive approach to cyber resilience. I know that we might be joined by people who are from the IT background, but at the same time, as we say, cybersecurity is for all, there might be a chance that some of the people who are here are not technical people. So in the language that we use when we talk about cyber resilience, we talk a language that all of us are going to be able to understand. The reason why I have to mention this at the beginning of the webinar is that if most of you might remember, back then, it used to be called information security. But I think as years went by, that's when now the term cybersecurity came in the picture. But it was nothing different from information security. So the reason why I have to mention this is so that you may know that in this webinar, we're going to look at it as a business strategy. When you talk about cyber resilience, in this case, we'll be talking about it as a business strategy, as something that is the drive to the business. Of course, technicality is going to come, because I'm going to look at some approaches which is going to be the technology aspect and the human aspect. So those approaches, yes, I'm going to mention them, but you might find that most of the things that I'm going to say here is how I'm trying to make people know that above technology, the first line of defense is a human being. So someone might just be wondering what is cyber resilience. And just in a mere language, I would say this is how you look at your own organization where you are. And you think of its ability to anticipate or to withstand or to recover from any event that can come. You're looking at yourself, you are thinking, okay, if this was to happen, how would we make sure that we are in the game again? So that's basically what cyber resilience is all about. And if you look at my slide, I'm saying we're going to look at two approaches. It's going to be technology and human aspect. Technology is when we talk about, okay, what is it that we are putting in place that is technical, that can make us to be able to continue with the game. But the human aspect also is another point here, which is very, very important. Why do we talk about human element? It is very vital because often it is us, the users or the employees, who are the weakest link. I think most of you here can testify to say, for people who find themselves being attacked because they received an email, it is you, the sender is a human being. The link is going to be clicked by a human being. So it all comes back to saying it is us. So for that reason, even if you can give someone a strong password, if that person is going to choose to write the password on the wall, someone will come and take it. So accidentally, it is the users who are daily sharing data, which at the end of the day might end up being breached. So the moment there is a security breach of your data, now it comes back to what? To issues that has called us for this kind of webinar to say we want to help you to embed a cyber resilient into your organization. And the next thing that we're going to talk about now is going to be the culture. Why do we talk about the culture here? We are trying to say in your culture, ensure that every employee is aware, ensure that every employee is vigilant, ensure that every employee is proactive in their approach to digital threats. So that's why I've mentioned all these things as things that we're going to look into. So now a resilient culture is vital. Why? Because it helps you to anticipate and tackle evolving threats. It minimizes your downtime, ensuring continuity of operations. It acts as a shield again to safeguard your organization reputation. Remember, if your organization is attacked, you lose money, your name is also pulled on the mud. So for that reason, it means your reputation is going to be affected. Another thing, again, what does your resilient culture helps you with? It ensures that your company stays on the right side of the regulations. You know, most people this read the global report, cybersecurity report. It's saying it is high time regulations and penalties are looked into. Why? Because data these days is being shared more. And some of your data that you share, you don't know how long it's going to stay in their servers, you don't know how it's going to be used. For that reason, we have to build a culture where now we have to make sure that we stay on the right side of the regulations and those penalties. What another thing that a resilient culture can do for you is it acts as a cost-saving mechanism. Remember, when you are hacked, you're going to spend a lot of money. So only when you've built that culture where everyone is aware, you will be able to save. Now, this is our approach to culture building. Remember, we're going to talk about detection and recovery. So here we are saying you need to evaluate your cybersecurity practices. I know most organizations they don't have cybersecurity practices. I'm going to give you something. If you look at the third point that says assessments, it is very organizations that do assessments. There is what we call cyber resilience review. In cyber resilience review, we just come into you with interviews. We are asking you, do you have policies? You might say yes, because you've heard there used to be policies. You might say yes and be able to provide documentation. So the reason I've mentioned it here as an approach is because assessments are some of the things that are going to help you to detect some of the things that you are not aware of. So you need to adopt evaluation models. You have to do assessments. You need to come up with actions. Actions usually are also influenced by what has come out from your assessment. Whether it's a vulnerability assessment, whether it's a risk assessment, whatever, if you're going to pass maybe a business impact analysis questionnaire to some of your employees or some of the clients that you're approaching, and they tell you, we don't have these policies, we are not sure, we don't know when it was revised, it now calls for you to come up with what we call policy creation. That's why I've mentioned that to say a culture building also include assessments. Also, you need to keep on testing your organization defenses. You need executive buy-in. I'm so excited that these days I know EC Council University. In fact, I should celebrate that I did my master's in cybersecurity, specializing in information assurance and executive leadership. So when we say executive buy-in, it's also one of the things that are really important, because if they don't buy in, like I said, it's all about business strategies. Will we stay in the game? So executives, they buy in. You are so sure that your business is going to continue. What is the other thing that you need also to consider? Continually review and update your policies. Which policies? Policies here, we are talking about the very policies that we create for you. When you say, okay, I've come up with a business strategy, my cyber strategy, and we tell you create policies, we come back and review them every 1 year, 6 months, 2 years, and it's very, very important. Now let's go to what is it that needs to be detected. Remember, we mentioned that we are talking about threats here. So when you say something needs to be detected, it means there is a threat. Someone might be asking, what is a threat? A threat here, we are talking about malicious actors. You hear about them every day. And here, I want us to focus on big criminals. Big criminals here, we are talking about state actors. We are talking about insider threats. The most dangerous person, remember, is someone who is already in the organization. So these people, they are good. They are malicious actors because they vary in motives, their interests, and also their capabilities, and also their modus operandi. So the reason why I'm mentioning this is so that I may show you that you need to detect this, the threats, which is cyber criminals, insider threats, and critical infrastructure disruptions. All these things also tells you that there is need also to detect some vulnerabilities. Now, someone might be asking me, what are vulnerabilities? A vulnerability is a weakness. It's a weakness in an organization infrastructure. Let's say you've got your data center, you've got your infrastructure there, you've got your networks already set there, but there's that weakness within it. This is one thing that is gonna potentially expose you to threats. For that reason, it means a vulnerability can be technical, can be a misconfigured firewall, but when you do your security assessment, obviously these things are gonna come out. And for that reason, they're going to help you to come up with measures on how you're going to harden your network. So now detection also, you need to conduct the security assessments, which I've already spoken about, and I've indicated to say penetration testing is very important. Business impact analysis is very, very important. Why am I mentioning business impact analysis? Many organizations in these days, they don't know which system is critical. Of course, I always say, as someone sitting at the gate, that system at the gate is very, very important. But the payroll system also is very, very important. But if something happens, you need to prioritize. You need to know which one is more important. That's why it's very, very important to conduct what we call a business impact analysis. I think in the next coming webinars, we will go more in business impact analysis because it has proven to be also one of the things that really help organizations to know where they are in their level of how they can be able to sustain any attacks that might happen to them. So cyber resilience improvement. Remember, we are going to talk about how to identify something, to be able to detect it, and to recover from it. So when you talk about cyber resilience improvement, we are saying identify critical services, which I just mentioned, define those threat scenarios, understand the risks, and then you prioritize. Now, how do you prioritize? You can see that I'm speaking about policies that play a role here. You need to have policies in place. You need asset management plan, you need your risk assessment, you need your management plan for risk, you need interdependency assessment mode. Most of us, we are dealing with different organizations out there. These are your third parties. Sometimes you might focus on only things that are there. forgetting that when we look at things like the 5 functions of an outcome that is going to help you, you need to identify, to protect, to detect, to respond, to recover, and to sustain. And not only internally also, but also to the organizations that you work with. So now that's why I'm mentioning this, to say whoever that you are allowed to access your systems, aim to know that whatever critical or essential services that are required in their IT systems or your systems to deliver the systems, they need to be identified, they need to be categorized, they need to be prioritized, and they need to be associated with each other so that you may know which one is vital. Now we go back to the protect and detect. There are some actions that you need to know on actions to detect. You need to perform the continuous monitoring, something that most organizations don't do. They you need to continually check and see if at all there is nothing that is being done and someone is not monitoring either your firewall logs that are continually warning you. You need to test and update the detection processes. You need to know the expected data flows for your organization, and you need to also understand the impact of cybersecurity events. And training of users here is also going to come here, because you need to manage your access to assets. Who is that person that you trust with your admin rights? Are you managing your devices vulnerabilities? Like I said, are you protecting your sensitive data? If you are protecting it, how are you doing it? Are you conducting your regular backups? If you are doing it, how often do you test if it's really working? Do you train your users? Training users can be even in this case. This is the webinar. This is how we do training. Training users, you can even just appoint a supervisor before they start the day. They just talk to the users, they highlight them on something. That training of users, you are trying to start that first line of defense for the people that are in the organization. And then we're going now to the respond part. These are actions that you need also to know, that you need to develop an operating procedure. You need to determine your relevant scenario, activate internal crisis management team. You need to test, analyze, learn, and institutionalize. Now here, this is one of the beautiful things that is also important in cyber resilience. Incident response policy needs to be in place. There's what we call BCDR, Business Continuity and Disaster Recovery Plan. Business continuity, you are saying, I'm going to continue to be in the game. Disaster and recovery, it means now that something has happened, this is what I'm going to do. So what are the actions here? Maintain your services, communicate service impacts to the public and your stakeholders. If there's something, you need to talk about it. Build redundant systems. Now that's where technology comes in. Exercise and evaluate your contingency plans. Now it comes back to say, what is this that you have? Do you have those policies for continuity? Do you have your contingency plans in place? Do you have your mutual aid agreements? If you are in someone, you have an organization that you've come into agreement with, is there a mutual aid agreement that is there? Do you have an emergency backup contract that you have with the person? Do you have an incident communication plan? Do you have a data backup plan? So these are some of the things that will happen when you are in good place with your cyber strategy. You will see them come into place because you have them and you are acting on them. Recovery. In the event that now a successful cyber breach has happened, what is it that you have as a recovery plan? These are the actions that you need to do. Recover your systems and services, evaluate and transform. Do post-incident communication and information sharing. Let people know that there is a problem. Have a business continuity plan in place. It's basically the same as what I just discussed. The development of policies. There is no way you can develop policies unless you have done a cyber resilience review. Cyber resilience review has got, there are different frameworks you can use. You can use NIST, which is a very good standard, which I've seen working, such that you are able to come up to an organization after the assessment and tell them that I see that you are at maturity 0 or 1 or 2 or 3 or 4. If someone is at level 0, you are saying you don't have a policy, you don't have anything in place, then you are starting everything from the beginning for them so that you come up with those robust policies. And if someone says, no, I've got policies, but they've been reviewed many years back, if those policies are for configuration management, asset management, risk management, you look at the policies, you tell them you're at this maturity level, but you continually review their policies and you continually recommend trainings. Why? Because the reason why you have to recommend trainings is because technology is trending every day. So for that reason, there is need to always recommend trainings. So recovery, as we continued, we are saying identify your risks, do your cyber resilience maturity level, which I just discussed, protect and discover your vulnerabilities before they're exploited. Reason being that many times we only realize that we've been attacked when something has happened. Detect your known threats with advanced analytics, respond with a plan, and recover access to critical data. So that is it that I had for you today. And before I open for questions and answers, I would say it is high time now that we look at cyber resilience as a business strategy. We should look at it with this thing in mind that it's not about technology at all times. It starts also with your employees. You can come up with a policy, but if employees choose not to abide by the policy, still it will not serve any purpose. For that reason, technology is vital, but the human element is also very, very important. So you're going to detect something, and after you detect something, you recover from it. How do you recover? By those technologies and by the policies that are in place, and having regulations such that if you've got cyber insurance, if you've got your security champions, if you've got anything that you might end up wanting to use as an advantage for your continuity of the business, you use it. And policies are always the best thing to have in place. So Shilpa and my attendees, that's all that I had for you today.
Thank you, Happy, for such an informative session, and our attendees share the same sentiments. Now, if you're interested to learn more about our programs, do let us know in the poll that's going to be conducted now. Let us know your preferred mode of training and we will reach out to you soon. So Happy, shall we start with the Q&A?
Yes, please.
Okay. So our first question is, technology is dynamic. If the company is unable to provide continued training to its IT department, what should one do?
Come again, Shilpa.
I said, first question is, technology is dynamic. If the company is unable to provide continued training to its IT department, what should one do?
I believe, in as much as I believe in self-development, I believe an organization, every company that is in the business of making money should be in a position to invest. So investment in this case is not only about the services that you want to provide, but also to invest in your assets. Remember, an employee is an asset. Not only IT is an asset, but also employees are assets. So it goes back to what I was saying, to say it always takes executive buy-in for them to appreciate and know the need. So there can be a challenge, of course, if maybe it's someone who doesn't understand the need, and whoever wants to be trained should be able to present a proposal of which it can indicate the need for that training. But if the organization does not have money, the world has changed in such a way that information is free. Information is free in different platforms. There are webinars, there is research on Google, there's a lot of platforms where someone can be able to learn more and be in a better position to still execute their tasks without being taken to school. But it's very, very important that technology needs to be spent on. If there's a system and it's needed and someone needs training on that system, it is the position of the organization to be able to part ways with money and be able to take that person to school. I have one mentor in the cyber leadership program that I'm in at the moment, who once emphasized his CISO journey. He said, in my CISO journey, I realized that these days it's not about certifications and all that. It takes the business to be understood by everyone. Why are we in business? Because for that reason, although technology is broad, IT field is broad, it will make you understand to know what is needed at that time for the organization. And for that reason, I take it that if the proposal and the need that is going to be fulfilled is indicated clearly, the organization will be able to pop up money and invest in technology.
Thank you, Happy. Our next question is, what kind of policies and operating procedures should be put to have a successful recovery?
Okay, when you look at the NIST framework, NIST 800, so there are different NIST frameworks that are there, which you can look at or which our attendees can look at. And we have what we call business continuity. And we have also disaster recovery. We've got configuration management. We have got risk assessment. We have got third party, which is some they call it third party, or it's basically the policies that deals with those that are engaged who have got access to your system. And we have got also business continuity, one that talks about your contingency plans. Those are some of the plans that you need, but it all starts by having a good cyber security strategy in place. Because if you have it, it's the one that is going to guide you on where there is need for what.
Thank you, Happy, for answering that question. Our next question for you is, how do you assess the effectiveness on an organization current detection mechanism and incident response processes?
Okay. It goes back to say cyber resilience review. It's called CRR. You know, for our attendees, we have never came across this. It's best you Google about it. What cyber resilience review does to you, it takes your organization as you are. It takes Shilpa as someone from the IT background. It takes maybe Barrier from being a pilot. It takes maybe I would say G as an accountant. It takes someone from admin. You are interviewing different people from different backgrounds. Reason being that all of them, somehow they are accessing the services and they are using the equipment within the organization. And you are asking them questions. And those questions are technical and some are not technical at all. So cyber resilience review, it helps because whatever assessment that you're going to do, whatever questionnaire that is for the business impact analysis that you're going to come up with, is exactly what you're going to use for the BCDR, which is business continuity and disaster recovery. So basically, I would say for someone to be able to know their position, for someone to know whether they're in a good position to withstand or to be able to anticipate and be able to cover if something happens, it starts with basically CRR, because the results shows your maturity. And from your maturity, it determines what you need to put in place. You know, I was once engaged in a task where we were doing that for one of the big organizations. And I realized that when you create policies, there's one important thing that most organizations need to be told about. When you create a policy from the maturity levels that an organization has been measured at, you also come up with roles and responsibilities. You might put a role there to say you need a response person here. That person might not be in the organization, but a CRR and the policies that you create, it's not for now. It's for 10 years to come, 15 years to come, 20 years to come. So basically, I'm saying whatever CRR and assessments that you do and the policies that you put in place, they are for the long run, and they also motivate you on how you can increase your team and how you can grow your business. So basically, I think in that question, this is all that I can say.
Thank you, Happy. Our next question is, What is vulnerability management in cybersecurity?
Vulnerability management, remember vulnerability, when you say a vulnerability, you are saying there is a weakness that I've realized here in this infrastructure. There is a weakness that I've realized in this kind of system that has been developed by us, for us by maybe a third party. You are saying, I'm seeing a weakness in the way that the privileges are being given to the users who are accessing the system. You are saying, I'm seeing a weakness in this kind of system. So when you say vulnerability management, you are trying to say, in as much as that I see this vulnerability, remember, it takes a vulnerability, it takes a weakness for someone to attack you. So now when you manage that thing, you are trying to say, before this person can come and attack me, let me be in a position to make sure that I've put these measures in place such that this weakness cannot be seen by someone who is outside. I'll give an example. If I buy a Cisco server right now and it comes with a default password of ABC1234, if I'm not going to go back and configure it and change the host name of my router, change also the password, be able to configure the trunk and be able to configure all the access lists, everything that is needed there. If I'm not going to change my configurations, it means that Cisco's router or switch is vulnerable. So now managing it, in this case, we are saying, now you are going to configure it in a manner that you are hardening it, such that its weakness cannot be seen or seen by someone who is an intruder or an attacker or a hacktivist or someone who is just out there who has got a malicious intention of gaining access for monetary gain or anything. So vulnerability management is all about saying, I'm going to block you, I'm going to harden my thing before you see my weakness. So that's basically it.
Thank you, Happy.
You're welcome.
We'll take last two questions for the day. What metrics or KPIs do you recommend organizations track to measure the effectiveness of their detection and incident response capabilities?
You know, when you talk about KPIs, remember I spoke about the human element as a factor. A system on its own cannot be effective. It takes a human, or it takes a human element for us to say this system is effective. So it starts with your people. I'll give an example. Do you know how many people right now watches the logs of a firewall and think that this is not true? They'll be like, no, these are false, 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 when it's not even false. So basically, it starts with the very person who is being trusted with that system. So after you make sure that the very person is trained enough to be able to monitor, to be able to respond if there's anything, if they detect anything. Now it goes back to that very system itself. Systems reach end of life. Systems need, if the web-based, let's talk about a web-based application. If you're gonna have a web-based application that does not have an SSL certificate that has been purchased for it, obviously you know what is going to happen there. So basically, for you to say, I am sure that this system is performing, and this is a performance indicator, which I can say my system is really working for me, it is when you see the result. It is when you see it also serving the purpose of which it was intended to serve. If you see yourself finding yourself many times being attacked, services being down because there's this little vulnerability, there's this little thing that happens on your system, and you find that nothing detected it, there's no contingency place, things in place that, or someone was able to respond to that thing well in time, then it means it's not going to be easy for you to be able to check your performance indicators for that system. So it takes both the human element and the technology itself. And also, you know, patch management, I forgot to talk about it. You know, patch management is also one of the policies in cybersecurity, very, very important. In as much as we've got configuration management policies, also your patch management is very, very important. You can have a system there that is reached end of life, and if it's just there and no one cares, you might find that at the end of the day, you don't even know what is it that's going to use to check the KPIs. So that's just basically it.
Thank you, Happy. We'll take last question for the day.
Mhm.
How do you assess the effectiveness of an organization current detection mechanism and incident response processes?
Come again?
How do you assess the effectiveness of an organization current detection mechanism and incident response processes?
Basically, if you don't see yourself being attacked, if you see yourself still in the business for a long time without having anything or threats that managed to go through, it means it's being effective. But that does not mean that you have to be comfortable. You still need to review what is in place, review your procedures, review them, keep on checking, because being fine today does not mean that you can be fine tomorrow, because like we said, the intruders out there, or even the very dangerous ones, insider threats, they're changing their ways of doing things. So for you to say this thing is effective, my response plan is effective, my detection plan is effective, is when you have reviewed it, and it's when you see that you are always just in business continually. Your business continuity is perfect. So that's when you can know that it's effective.
Thank you so much to our wonderful speaker, Happy, for answering those questions and for the great presentation and knowledge shared with our global audiences. It was a pleasure to have you with us, and we are looking for more and more sessions with you. Now, before we conclude the webinar, Happy, would you like to give a small message to our audiences, please?
Come again, Shilpa?
I requested you to give a small message to our audiences, please.
Okay. The message that I can give to them is, I did my master's in cybersecurity, executive leadership and information assurance with EC Council University. And this is not only the university way. I am not in any way, uh, because this is a EC Council Cyber Talk. I'm going to speak about it. Reason being that I'm confident about what I've learned from the university, and I'm confident about what I'm saying. It landed me in my job as the deputy director in cybersecurity in the government. And everything that I had learned, I was given also access to the resources and the materials for more than a year. And all the lectures that I had made there, the likes of Yuri, they were more like mentors, because even up to today, they still advise. So from what I've learned from EC Council University, and also what I learned as I attend webinars, because there are webinars almost every week, every week from different speakers. As we learn from these webinars, it might be free. This is more like giving back to the community. But whatever information that we are sharing with you in this webinar, they are helping you. They are helping you to think in a better way. They are helping you to know where you want to go, because cybersecurity is very, very broad. In the same way, IT is very broad. You need to specialize. You need to know your area where you're strong. I'll give an example. I'm very strong in vulnerability testing. I'm an ethical hacker. I can do penetration testing. I can do cyber resilience. I can do security assessments. I can create policies. I can do all that. But it took what? It took mentorship and also the attending of these webinars for me to end up being able to see resources that can work for me. So I can say thank you, EC Council, for being, they say there's a mentor and there is a career sponsor. So to me, EC Council University is a career sponsor, because whatever that I learned from this university, it's helping me to keep going in my field. So that's basically what I can say.
Thank you so much, Happy, for the message to our audiences. Before we end the session, I would like to announce our next Cyber Talk session, a guide to incident response framework, ransomware negotiations, which is scheduled for February 15, 2024. This is an expert presentation by Ada Ribeiro, Senior Cybersecurity Program Manager. To register for this session, please do go visit our website www.eccu.edu/cybertalks The link is given in the chat section. Hope to see you all on February 15th. With this, we end the session. You may now disconnect your lines. Thank you. Thank you so much. Happy pleasure having you.
You're welcome. Pleasure having you attendees. Bye-bye.